We are live, and my tripod is crooked, so I'm gonna have my friend Kadara join me today for this episode of The People. There he is. What's up, Kadara? Just need for you to request to join, and I will add you in. There you are. Hi.
What's up?
How are you? It's great to see your face.
Good, good. Okay, now I can see myself. Awesome.
Yay! Good morning.
Good morning. What's up? Well, good morning for you. I wake up early.
Yeah. So I actually just want to say thank you because I have been I've needed extra motivation to get my morning going, and we're in different time zones, and the time that Kadara had to do this was earlier than I usually am functioning when it comes to interacting in this way. But I was like, no, I want to do this. And he was patient with me, and he let me push it back a few minutes. And here we are. I have my coffee. I am awakening to the brilliance of being a morning person. I mean, in some ways, I'm a morning person because I get a lot done at 2 or 3 in the morning. But yeah, my natural flow has not ever seemed to be. I have memories of my mom dumping glasses of water on my head to get me out of bed when I was a kid so that I'd go to school because first she didn't always do that. My mom was like not, a exceptionally mean human being. She would first would like wake me, exactly. But then, like after I didn't do that, I became accustomed to just completely blocking it out and staying in bed. She'd flick water for like a week or two, and I'm like, and then I just learned how to block that out. So it became eventually one day a whole glass in my head.
I feel like you're the person where they could just literally be at the bottom of the swimming pool, like sleep. And people are like, how is she sleeping
Yeah.
in the bottom of the pool? Like, is she a mermaid? So like for me, I take cold showers in the morning. Like I wake up at like 5:30, and the first thing I do is, well, I meditate and then I take a cold shower and then I meditate again. But a cold shower is what keeps me awake that early in the morning because it really kicks your circulation. It gets your body going because your body then kicks into, oh, I need to heat up to keep this person warm. So my body just heats up to the point where I've been doing it so long that now I don't even feel like it's cold water unless I like put my hand up. I'm like, I'll be like, the water's not. Oh, it is cold. I was like, oh, my body's just in heat mode. And then I step out and I'm just like, all right. And people were like, why do you wake up that early? I'm like, it's so cool to finish most of the things I wanted to do for the day by like 8 or 9 o'clock. It's so weird to just be
What
like
time do you go to sleep normally?
10.
Okay. So my question is this. Well, I have a few questions. Okay. Well,
Go ahead.
I want you also to introduce you to introduce yourself, but I'll kind of open with this and then maybe you can
Gotcha.
flow from that. Um, I mean, there's so many things about you that interest me. One of them, I know that you've served, in the military, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm curious if you were a morning person before that, or if the discipline through that, being in the military is what
Mhm.
allowed you to have the willpower to wake up
Mhm.
early consistently. And then my other question, I know there's multiple questions. Um, what's your mental game? I know now you've been doing it for a long time to get in the shower, but that moment of like, okay, I'm gonna get in the cold shower. I know my
I
body's
know,
gonna
I
go
know.
like, ah. How if you have any tip for
Yeah,
all of us? Because I think pretty
yeah.
much most of the people I think that are watching here get that cold water
Hmm.
is healthy,
Hmm.
and just quickly, when you get into cold water, your capillaries compress and it just pumps like
Hmm.
everything through your body. It's really healthy. I do a lot of Kundalini yoga,
Hmm.
and Yogi Bhajan always teaches about taking. He says he recommends 11 minutes cold shower every day.
Hmm.
And I was watching a lecture by him, and he's like, I'm going to attempt to do his accent a little bit, just so you guys know I'm being Yogi Bhajan, but he says, I've been teaching in this country for 20 years, but still I can't get Americans to take cold showers in the morning.
Hmm.
So please share any
Yeah.
tidbits that you have with
So
us.
yeah. So initially, I spent my preteen and teenage years in Asia, and because we had to take the bus to school, we had to wake up early anyway. So I'm used to waking up early. And it's just the military was more of a waking you up at like 4 in the morning, having a shift at like 12. So they're just screwing with your time so that you can get used to just adjusting throughout the day. Because you never know when you're going to get to sleep, never know when you're going to get to eat. So those are things that I just learned. And it's like if I'm going to wake up earlier, then it means I need to go to bed earlier. And I had someone that was like, well, I can't go to bed before 12. I was like, you can, you just choose not to. So
Right.
a lot of people that I know, including myself, we stay on our phones all night long. And it's like I don't have to be on my phone from 11 to 12 or watch Netflix. Like if I truly wanted to go to sleep, I would just put my phone away at 9. And then for me, just go find things to calm myself down. Go meditate or take another cold shower. Not only do cold showers wake you up, cold showers actually help you go to sleep as well. And the math behind that, the reasoning behind that is like yes, the cold shower kickstarts you for your breathing and things like that. Because in order to withstand a cold shower for a long period of time, even over a minute, you have to take deeper breaths. Those deep breaths and the way your body circulates like that is the same deep breath energy you need to go to sleep. So that's why I usually take a cold shower in the morning and before I go to bed at night. I'll take one around like 9. I'll try not to use my phone and I'll just start to like ease everything out and just focus on my breathing for that last part of the day. I'm not going to lie to you. When I go to take a shower, I go in there, I turn the knob like a little bit so that it's on cold, and I'm like, fuck. No bullshit. I've been taking cold showers since I was like 12, and I'm
Really?
36 now. Yeah, since I was like
How
12.
did
I'm
you?
36 now. Well, it's Japan. I grew up in Japan, so it's like they believe in the cold showers. Because you have to control your breathing in a cold shower, you also use that same breath in meditation.
Right.
My meditation practice is so defined because I can slow my breathing down, meaning I can relax so much more and just be like, and you get to do that same thing in the cold shower, and it's something you have to practice. A lot of people I meet, they go in the cold shower and they just jump in and they're like you've already screwed yourself when you do that. Like I literally get in the cold shower and I'm like, and yeah, you're gonna shake. It's normal to shake. This is the thing. Like, I feel like some people think they have to get in the cold shower and just be like,
Do you scream? Because I
no,
scream.
no.
I mean, for
I
me, it's
just
usually like,
breathe. I breathe.
ah!
Yeah,
And then
and
I'm
you
okay, and
can
then
let
I
it
can
out.
do the
Yeah, you
breath.
can let it out. There's nothing wrong with like people have this thing like I screamed and I was like shivering. That's okay. Like it's
Yeah.
okay to scream and to shiver and be like, Jesus, like do that. Do all get all that stuff out, and then just be like. Mm. And then ease into it. Allow your body to ease into it. And then the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Like now, I literally just, and I get in and it hits my chest, and I'm like, oh, this shit's cold. And then I just breathe out, and I'm like, okay, we can do this. And then within less than a minute, my body already kicks up to this heat to temperature where I don't feel that it's cold on my body anymore. But I know it's cold because it's the coldest setting. So,
Right. Well, I want to say that there's something I'm just taking in that you've been doing it for over 20 years, and yet you still experience it as cold. Because I think in my mind I'm like, there must be one day, but what I'm getting is that it's so much your ability to then transition your body with and how you
mm,
regulate through the cold water
mm,
has allowed you then to then actually not experience it as
mm,
much as the sort of contraction in the cold. And that's one of the
mm,
benefits beyond the actual physical benefits of the contraction and pumping out like the small capillaries and getting your lymphatic system going. There's also with cold water practice the ability to actually self-regulate your nervous
mm.
system by putting yourself into extreme experiences. Before we go into that though, because you're such a unique human being, and I love you. I think you're
Thank you.
amazing.
I
Every
love you
time
too.
you share, I learn something. You're a wealth of wisdom. You continue to open doors of awesomeness every time we have a discussion. I'm like, oh, he's even more awesome than I thought. Would you, briefly, however you would like to introduce yourself to everyone? Because not everyone here has had the honor of knowing you like I do. And
Hmm.
so, like, I'd love for them to get a little bit of an idea of who you are in the world and what you're up to right now.
Okay,
And
what's up?
also, Ashley says hi. Ash Newmeister, know Ash.
Hey
Freya,
everyone.
she said, "What's
Hi
up?" She
Ash.
likes to be on here.
Hi
Diz
Nana.
says, "What's up?" Hi, Diz.
Can I
And we also
introduce
had a
myself?
mother who was just chatting
Wave
about
my
how
hair.
she helps her son get to sleep at night. Um,
Hmm.
so cold showers is an option too. It might help
Yeah.
calm your son down
Okay.
once he is into it. I mean, you started at 12, so maybe you want to speak to that. But please
Yeah.
introduce yourself.
Awesome. I am Kadara. I grew up in Asia, primarily when I was a kid. Was raised by mystics, literally, in like the area that I lived in. There were mystics there, not like people that were running around be like, I'm a mystic. It was just like they were modern mystics of that time. So I learned a lot about like just natural slash spiritual practices and things like that at a young age. Grew up, joined the military, wanted to be more of like a warrior mystic versus like the more calm and just like meditative mystic. Military led me into 14 years, went to Iraq, Afghanistan, Africa, Israel, been to combat, done, seen all the things. Then got out and shifted out and started moving more into something that I felt more aligned with, which was coaching because I have a really powerful presence. I have a very deep, powerful voice. And I was like, if I'm going to use the things that I've learned, I want to use them to support other people. So I got more into embodiment coaching and self mastery first, and that I had so much stuff in my head and I needed to get rid of it because I was thinking, I'm like, I let go of all the things, but it's still giving me problems. And I realized like all those thoughts of like PTSD and war and combat and all the stuff in my childhood, it was actually trapped in my body. So as I started to dance even more with intention to release these things, it got easier. So for me, it's like self mastery comes from just practicing over and over. Same with cold showers. As you practice the cold shower more and more, you learn to self regulate or self master your own body. And then I work also in authentic personal branding, which is me getting people to tell their whole story. Because if I don't tell people that I was in the military, that I was raised with mystics, and then I traveled all over the world, then they're missing big chunks of where I learned and how I embody and embrace all this stuff or why I even do it. So it's just getting people to embrace all of who they are at all times, which some people will be like, that's impossible. And it's not. It's not impossible to embrace who you are. Like I was doing an IG thing where someone just really disrespected me. And I was like, thank you all so much. And I just jumped out. And my friend was like, dude, I'm like, I'm not gonna stay on there if you're gonna disrespect me. I was like, I don't tolerate that shit. So it's just being yourself and not feeling bad about standing up for yourself and speaking your own truths because at the end of the day, I can only speak my own truths. I don't have to prove it because you weren't there. And I don't have to like get mad if someone doesn't believe me because it's my truth. Whether you believe it or not, I don't care about right or wrong. I'm just sharing an experience because the universe was like, keep sharing. So maybe there's someone in La La Land that goes, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm going through the same thing. Now I know there's someone else in the world that got through it and they're happy and they're wearing pink shower caps and dancing and taking cold showers and talking online. Like I just want to inspire people to know like you can do and be yourself and still
Yeah.
just be happy in whatever business you're living in.
Yeah. I think it's for me, it's a lifelong practice,
Hmm.
I still find layers where I'm realizing there's conditioning or
Hmm.
somehow that my behavior has been like just wrote into a cycle of this is how you
Hmm.
do things. And then I'll have an epiphany of like, oh, is that really how I would handle it? Is there shame in there? Is there like, um, I mean, straight up here with us, this is an honest
Keep it
conversation.
straight up.
I've been on dating apps, I have actually been single, you too. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I keep getting paired. I'm 42. I every time on the dating apps they say you're most compatible with like 25 and 23-year-olds. And I was like, why are they matching me with these people? So I wrote my friends the other day. It was so interesting because I wrote my friends the other day like is it ethically okay for me to have sex with a 26-year-old? And it brought up so much stuff for me, just thinking about it. And I really went to the space of like, why am I so uncomfortable with the age difference?
Hmm.
Is it a conditioning, like if it was the other way around, if I was a
Yeah.
man and the woman was 26, would I have an issue with it? Like, is it, and actually, and not, I mean, whatever. Now you guys all know my life and my business. Another 25-year-old recently I was on the phone. Who's like, are you attracted to me? And I was like, oh God, it's coming up again. Like, I'm going to have to deal with this age thing.
I'm a cougar.
Yeah. And,
Conditioning.
and he asked me straight out, why are you uncomfortable? Is it because you're individually, or is it because you care about what other people think? And I sat there, I was like, no, it's definitely, there's a big part of my
Mm,
conditioning societally about what is appropriate and what's not
mm,
appropriate. Like, do I individually have an issue with age? No. Like, I've seen people fall. My mother, even my mother was married to someone 25 years older than her, and they were madly in love, and he was my stepfather and my, like, really the best father figure I've ever had in my
mm,
life. So I've also actually been exposed to big age differences, yet
mm,
flipped, just looking at the coding and how it's come in.
mm,
um it's fascinating. So I'm just saying that I'm still like seeing where I have
mm,
visceral nervous responses, like my nervous system responds to things in a certain way, and I get to stop and question myself if that's really my authentic expression or just something that got programmed into my system at a certain point. Around like it being not okay, or me getting in trouble, or somehow me being judged, or it being embarrassing. I think these are the things that tend to come up for
mm.
people.
Yeah, and
What's
I
that
feel
for
you on that.
you
Yeah,
of
yeah, I
actually
feel
living
you on that.
authenticity?
I
Yeah.
was I joined I joined, so I tried all the apps because it was like something that Preston brought up of like not limiting ourselves, and I was like, you know what? I can't tell the universe, hey, I want to be in a conscious relationship, and then think that I can only meet someone organically. Like I would like to meet someone organically, but I also don't want to limit myself. So I downloaded Hinge and Bumble and Tinder and the things, and I didn't really like Hinge and Bumble just because people were matching and not responding. So I
Yeah.
was like, fuck that. So I was on Tinder and I was sitting with myself on Tinder and I was like, do I feel bad for being on an app like this? And I was like, I don't, because it's stupid of me to be like, because I had this scene that came up of how would I feel if I would introduce this person to my friends and be like, we met on Tinder? Because I've seen how people react when they say,
Yeah.
oh, we met on Tinder. People are like, oh, they must have been having sex first. So I was like, you know what? Let me make sure that's not it. And then I was like, no. And then I was like, I actually want to see what it's like if I pay for the app because it's not actually that much money and I actually would like to meet someone. So I paid for the app and I kept getting matches, but I couldn't see the matches. So I'm like, I'm paying for platinum. I should see the matches. And I looked online and it says you can still get matches, but maybe because of the age range that I've set, they're not showing up. And I was like, well, I had set it to like 32 to like 45 or something. So I was like, let me just see what happens if I drop it to like 21 to like 100. And I
Yeah.
did. And I started getting so many matches. And I'm in Austin. So it's like a whole bunch of the matches are from like 23, 26-year old women. And I was like, they want to date older guys. And I was like, would I not want to date them? And I was like, am I judging them because they're younger? And I was like, I'm assuming that because they're younger, they're not going to be ready to date someone older yet. When I was their age, I dated older women. So I was like, I can't make those assumptions of people. So I started messaging them. And although I haven't been on any dates with any of these people, I am glad that I allow myself to just be open to it.
Yeah.
Because if I did meet someone I wouldn't care if I was dating a 21-year-old that I felt was like super conscious, just as much as if I dated someone that was 50. If they're 50 and like we just vibe and they're like my life partner, I'm not going to question it. And I'd
Yeah.
have no problem introducing them to my friends. And my friends would be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're dating a 21-year-old. And I'd be like, oh my God, I don't give a fuck. And you and your partner have issues. So no relationship's perfect.
Yeah, what's actually interesting? I was on Clubhouse, which is where we met in a room, and in a debate. And one of the things we were getting into were sort of the discussion was on the existence of God and whether
Mhm,
humans are, God, humans experience as God seeking to know itself, just to give some
mhm,
context. And we got into a lot of cool topics. But one of them, one of the people on there was from Haiti, and he was also very scientific. So I asked him specifically to share what it was like growing up in a culture where the let's just say the devas or the spirits are so alive, and
mhm,
yet he was so scientific, and I asked him to share an experience, and he shared an experience when he was a kid in Haiti of seeing a person actually turn into an animal.
mhm,
And that's part of what drove him into science, because he wanted to be able to explain it on a logical level. And the person who was moderating that room, not in a way that was in any way directly referring this, but what I noticed the context was, he said, well, what was your age when that happened? So the question was pretty neutral. And he said, I was 10, but I immediately watched the reaction of now needing to validate his experience because he
Mm.
was 10.
Yeah.
And it made me think about how we actually tend to uh, we don't give like our kids any credit because of their age. Like they come and they tell us things. We're like, well, are you sure that's what you saw? Or is that really the truth?
It's your
Um,
imagination.
yeah. And then
Hmm.
actually, it's such a beautiful part of the human experience that we all shut down,
Hmm.
but like it was just so fascinating to watch that. And even when we're talking in context of like, okay, we do that to younger people. I got used to get like my aunt, she'd pat me on the head. I'd share something to the conversation. If it was not congruent with what she shared, she'd pat me on the head. She'd be like, you're young. You don't know anything. I mean, it was only years later that I was
Yeah.
doing anger management and I had to like vocalize my repressed anger. And I was
Hmm.
like, you stupid bitch. But I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was so angry at my aunt for saying that to
Hmm.
me when I was a kid. So I do really understand that for younger people, it's frustrating too. Like
Hmm.
I watch in my conversation where they're like, I like literally the kid I was talking to. I don't even call him kid. The young man that I was talking to, I call everyone a kid. You can be 50, I'll still call you a kid. But um, he was like, well, I've reincarnated onto this planet many times. Like I'm much wiser than my age. And I actually
Right.
remember when I was younger and
Hmm.
felt like I had to prove something about myself that I was wise and that I did have knowledge just because of my age. So, I do think it's an important conversation. I think that the people who are younger have access to new types of operating systems and
Hmm.
information that they're bringing in from other galaxies and other places, and just the nature of evolution. Buckminster Fuller has this amazing quote, which is, "You, you are your children are the elder. Your children are your elders in universal time. You will never
Hmm.
be able to truly see the universe through their eyes, only
Hmm.
through association."
Hmm.
So I love thinking about it like that and how much we can learn from them. And then figuring out like our own relationships within that and like what we've
True.
been conditioned. I mean, this is an interesting subject. I know we're speaking to it specifically in age, but it's been coming
Hmm.
up a lot. And I just want to say, like, as far as time, I know if you need to jump off at any point,
No, no, you're
please,
good.
and we'll complete. Um,
Not for you.
I think in relationships, we're in this very fascinating time right now where there's so much shifting societally and culturally. The other way that I have been discussing it about it with people is around women and their ability now to financially sustain themselves and how that has been shifting the relationship dynamic. Because if we look back, even I was having dinner actually with my next door neighbor who just got vaccinated, and finally she's been all by herself. She's 86, and we had dinner the other night. She felt safe enough to like let's have dinner. And we were talking, and I realized, in that conversation, she was saying that when she first got married, her husband was 25, and that was a lot older than normal for getting married. She
Hmm.
was 22. And just thinking to how different things are
Hmm.
now, and that most women, like right around her generation, because of the war, women started to go to work, and then
Hmm.
they stayed in the workforce because they actually enjoyed it. But before that, women were not working, they were at
Hmm.
home, and that as a woman, your real only way of sustenance and sustaining was to marry a man who had the ability to financially support you in whatever family you guys created together. And now we have women who are financially independent, so that same relationship dynamic is it's figuring
Hmm.
itself out. I'm curious to hear anything you want to share on that subject of what you're
Yeah.
experiencing and seeing.
The dynamics have definitely changed a lot. I was talking in a conference thing, and this had come up about the patriarchy, and I was like, the patriarchy actually hasn't been around that long. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, it has. I was like, do you know where the patriarchy came from? And they're like, I was like, it actually came from farmers. The whole concept of the patriarchy was that if you and I were to be together, what would happen is I generally live on my family's farm. And it's like the males stay. Whereas when a woman gets married, she goes to wherever her husband is. So it's like the women actually had no power on the farm because everything was passed down the line of men. My father gave to me, I gave to my son, and so on and so on. But you have no stake in it because you're actually by yourself. So it's like it's my father or it's grandfather, father, uncle, me, brother, my boys, and so on. You have this huge line of men that are staying in this one spot and never leaving, and there's no shift, and all you have is just a woman or two coming in and marrying someone and giving up everything they have. And that's actually when that level of patriarchy began, of it being that way. And it stayed like that. And this is why I'm excited to see that there's a huge shift of it's no longer just the male works. Like I know some women that are one of the women that I know that I highly admire. She's got 4 kids. She's the breadwinner in the house, and she fucking knows it, and her husband knows it. And I love that he doesn't make a big deal out of it. He's like, yeah, I stayed home this weekend and watched the kids. And he says it like it's so smooth, and I'm like, yes. Because I know a lot of men of my friends that would be like, I'm not going to be a house husband. And
Yeah.
I'm like, why? And it's like, because I have to. Well, if your wife has the job and she's happy about it, I know some men that are actually just happy about sitting at home and just being with their kids. So it's really, really beautiful to see that dynamic change. I don't see it as much, but I definitely love seeing it. I love seeing that people are navigating into a time where we understand that the dynamic is whatever the fuck you want it to be. And I feel like a lot of people are still living by the programming. And I believe there's also like a misconception, because I've met people through dates where they've told me that, oh, well, like, I'll see them post about the patriarchy and how they don't like the patriarchy. And then I will go on a date and they'll be like, well, the man is supposed to pay. And I'm like, oh, really? I was like, that sounds like patriarchal shit. And they'll be like, no, that's just, I was like, why is the man supposed to pay? And they're like, well, the man always pays. I'm like, that would be the patriarchy. I was like, so what you're saying is I'm going to pay for everything. And if we get married, you're just going to sit at home and watch the kids and you're going to quit your job. They're like, no. And I'm like, well, it's kind of conflicting interests. You can't choose half of the patriarchy that you like and get rid of everything else. Like, it doesn't work that way. And I used to piss a lot of people off on dates by just being blunt. I'm like, you don't get to choose which aspects of the patriarchy you do and don't like. Like, change it. Change it and be it. If I invite you on the date, of course I'll pay. But
Yeah.
don't tell me that I need to pay, because that is the patriarchy. And I
Yeah.
feel a lot of people are hypocrites in that aspect. So I'm glad that we've definitely talked about this.
Yeah. I also think that there's a lot actually. We're in this space of I think of everything so much about life like around like our ability to create as humans, and the framework with which we were creating in was a bit more limited based on societal pressures, and that's shifting drastically and quickly. And in
Mm,
relationship, what that means is what does it look like when you actually can create, when you accept that you're a creator and you sort
mm,
of realize you have all of these conditions and societal rules. And I want to actually honor that we're very blessed, right? And even though, like in America, there are still a lot of things that
mm,
get to be fixed that make things unequal for people for many different reasons, compared to like, I just got back from Egypt where 2 women were put in jail for being on Instagram for speaking about things that were not according to Islamic, appropriateness. And
beliefs.
Egypt being one of the more lenient,
Mm,
Islamic countries. And this is not to say anything bad about anyone's religion, but just saying that there are governments that impose certain types of rules and regulations
mm,
about your behavior, and you will literally be put in jail, for it, and or worse. So I
mm,
just want to say that we're like, it's kind of cool that some of us are here in a space where we can like actually really live into our infinite creativity. And what does that look like? And it can be scary to push the boundaries a bit.
mm,
But like, what does the ideal relationship look like? And we do live in a time with, if the people, the way I look at it is, if the two people are in good communication and an agreement around it, like a society is based on the collective agreements. And if we break
true.
that down into, you have your own collective agreements with yourself on an individual level, then you have them in your romantic relationship or your
Mm,
familial, and then so on and so forth. So in a relationship, we might say now, like as conscious beings, hey, I kind of like it. I know it's totally conditioned, but it makes me feel such and such because you're the man. And because this is another thing that I think is interesting, or let's not even say you're the man, you're the one portraying the masculine energies in this relationship at this point. Maybe it looks like that. Tonight, as we go out to dinner, you'll be playing the role of the divine masculine. So you please pay for the dinner because that'll allow me to be in this role more.
mm.
I've just started to explore David Data's work. I don't know if you've read any of that stuff or gotten into like a little bit more of just starting to understand. Actually, Mostly because when I was in Egypt, I did a reading with someone, and he
Mm,
said to me, you are very comfortable in your masculine energies, which is totally true,
mhm,
and encouraged me to be more feminine. And I thought to myself, like, what does that look like? What is I don't want to make it like, oh, that means just wearing a dress and putting on makeup,
mhm,
because that those are sort of typical stereotypical ideas of
mhm,
gender. But what are the actual true embodiments of the feminine energy? And how can I, like, yeah, yes, I can dress in certain ways to move more into that, but what are the even deeper, like more subtle levels of truly embodying, I know so much of your work is around embodiment, the feminine, because I think a lot of us, women and men, have been taught to, in this like patriarchal society, or more male focused or
mhm.
yang focused, like productivity being the supreme ruler. That's
Yeah,
what we know.
yeah.
So yeah.
I've definitely, and this is something that I love. And I had a friend bring this. I've had actually multiple friends uh, that felt it was triggering when I was posting the videos of me like dancing more feminine, like being in
Mm.
my feminine red light. Maybe my shirt is off. And a really close friend of mine was like, it was weird seeing you do that. And I was like, why? She's like, because I can't do it. And I was like, oh, so it wasn't weird seeing me do it. And it's like I've had some really good friends open up to me and be like, I've watched you do this, and I'm sitting there like, how the fuck is he doing that? Like, how are you just going out there and embodying this divine feminine? I was like, because for me, the feminine is all about presence and flow. And it's like my intention is divine feminine. There's not like a special action I can do to embody the divine feminine. What I can do is just surrender and let go and allow myself to receive. So it's like when I allow myself to receive, it means I just go in front of the screen, I play the music, and they refer to it as polycentric. So for me, polycentric is when I allow every part of my body to just flow and to be its own thing without control. And when I start to do so, and I just focus on being present, as I'm present with myself, because I'm doing that, that is where people are like, oh shit, that's divine feminine. Like they see that I'm being present. They see that I'm flowing. They see that I'm not doing anything that's like overly aggressive or more masculine, sort of like trying to define something, trying to control something, trying to navigate, trying to show force. And then you can also do both in between. There was a video that I did where there are times where I would pop my chest and tighten my body up and then relax in the flow. And I was like, this is how I shift between the masculine and the feminine throughout the day. So for me, it's not even about balance because I get a lot of people that are like, I want to balance them. And I was like, I don't believe in balance. I believe balance is not sustainable permanently. Because when you're trying to balance things, it's literally like taking two things and walking around like this all day. And it's like, oh my God, I'm too much of this, so I go here. So for me, it's more about becoming an alignment because alignment goes in any degree. If I align my masculine and feminine like this, no matter where I shift, they're in alignment. If it just turns like this, they're still in an alignment. Balance to me is like horizontal. Alignment doesn't matter where I go, I'll always be aligned in whatever it is that's going on for me. So I believe it's very powerful to be able to embrace that feminine aspect of just being present, which for me sometimes I feel like meditation is feminine. Just for me, like when I'm meditating, I'm just so present with myself. And it's like I'll work with people and I'll be like, when you really, really just dial out and you allow yourself to be present, you can feel your heart beating in your chest. You can feel it in your palms. You can feel it in your forehead. And it's like that to me is a very feminine thing to just be present and to flow because I'm just being there with myself. Whereas the masculine aspect would be the I have to sit like this and I have to put my hands and hold it like stiffly. And that's when people, I think, start shaking and you're not allowing yourself to breathe naturally. They're so focused on it's the person that goes, Nada, I've been trying to meditating, it's not working out. I was sitting like this and I was trying to clear my brain, and I'm like, that's so masculine to try to like force it. I'm like, you don't have to clear your mind. You can just let your thoughts continue to just keep moving around and stuff like that. Just be present with your breath. So I love that you brought this topic up.
Yeah, I'm in a meditation training right now, which actually, I have the book right here. Hold on a second. I took it because I've had this book for a while, which is
Mhm.
so epic. Have you ever read this?
Mhm. I suck
The
at reading
Radiant
books.
Sutras. Um, the teachers, the writer of this and his wife or girlfriend, I mean, partner, life partner,
Mhm.
they've been together for a long time, are teaching a meditation course.
Goals.
My friend was doing it, and I thought, okay, cool, I'm going to jump in because I love this book so much.
Mhm.
Um, and there's some really core takeaways that I've gotten just from listening to them as lifelong meditators. I mean, they're probably both in their late 60s, maybe early 70s
Mhm.
now. Um, Sorry if they're watching this and they're way younger and I totally was wrong about their ages. But as we spoke about earlier, age is just a number. So, you
I'm
know,
49. I'm 49.
I know. So, Lauren, the author of this book, he was saying how many people are self-flatulating during meditation. It's abusive. Like they sit down and they then use their mental state of authoritarian control to like beat themselves up the entire meditation. And I
Mhm.
thought about it and I was like, that is so on point, as opposed to just taking the time to watch the movement and to be in witness of the flow and like, oh, there's a thought and now it's moved to this, which is a more feminine way of interacting with the meditation versus like, ah, you lost your thought again, go back to the
Oh,
breath,
now I have to
have the
start
focus
over.
of this. And it actually becomes a miserable experience for
Mhm.
people where when you just are in it and observing, uh it's actually quite beautiful. I will go back. I just kind of like, I was away and I signed up for it. I'm just sort of catching up
Mhm.
rapidly on the program, but uh the way that he expresses just sitting and watching the flow of your thoughts and recognizing that you have are a sensuous being and are
Mhm.
feeling the sensations and noticing the thoughts and all the delicacies of
Mhm.
creation and the universe. And when you just actually do that, your body naturally knows to heal itself. And the
Mhm.
body goes, oh, I'm having a moment of rest, and actively kicks into that state of regenerating, repairing, deep relaxation, and all the benefits that come to us from that. It's really been great, actually, experience for me to learn. Um,
Yeah.
I got to just quickly, how much time do you have left?
No, you're good. I don't have anything for like another 2 hours.
Okay, cool. So, I want to read the opening of this. It's just so epic. I've got to share with everyone. So, this again is the Radiant Sutras translated by Lauren Roche. And these are the sutras there that he translated, that he learned. He learned meditation, actually, which is very interesting. As a student in college, they got chosen for an experiment on studying people for meditation. They put him in a room, put a bunch of electrodes, and they said meditate. And he's like, I don't even know what meditation is. So he went from there to like exploring like the deep teachings of meditation. And so this was the book that he translated from Sanskrit. One day, the goddess sang to her lover, Bhairava, beloved and radiant lord of the space before birth, revealer of essence, slayer of the ignorance that binds us. You who in play have created this universe and permeated all forms in it with never ending truth. I have been wondering, I have been listening to the hymns of creation, enchanted by the verses, yet still I am curious. What is this delight filled universe into which we find ourselves born? So, just to give you a bit of the opening, I've really been into the poetry of
Mhm.
these mystics recently.
Mhm.
Um, Rumi and the Radiant Sutras and I've been reading the Tao Te Ching, which isn't
Mhm.
necessarily poetry in the same exact way, but is, you know, these beautiful uses of words as an art form in an attempt to explain profound wisdom. Um, it's yeah, I've just felt myself called to them recently.
That's why I
So
love writing.
you guys,
I absolutely love writing poetry. Um, because for me, one of the greatest challenges I got was probably, I think it was like 8 years ago. And it was another mystic, and he was like, I have a challenge for you. He was like, take that long 1 page poem and make it into 4 short sentences and tell the same story. And I was like, it'd be different then. He's like, why? Why is it different? And I was like, because it's a whole story. And he's like, that's why it's the challenge. And I sat with that for like a week of just being like, how? I was like, you can't take an entire story and sum it up in a blah blah blah. And I was like, all right, I accept the challenge. And one of the first things I wrote, and I shared it with him, and I was like, here. And he was like fucking speechless. He was like, that is a deep story. And he's like, I can feel everything in those four sentences. And he's like, now just start sharing like that. And this is why a lot of my poems, and it's easy for me to like compress that long story that I could tell into something that's more powerful because I can do it. It's just finding a way to do it. And I found out visualizations help so much more. So it's like one poet might write, I was staring at the moon, whereas I could write something like, I was staring into the sky at the only flicker of a candlelight at night. It's the same thing, yet the visualization is different because the flicker of candlelight could be the moon, it could be stars, and now you're just seeing these twinkling things in your mind. So it's like getting the person to what I want to do is create a world where you can read a poem physically reading, but energetically and spiritually or naturally, your eyes are closed and you're seeing all of this stuff and you're experiencing it. And I think that's the power of like mystical poetry when you read like Rumi and things like that. And that's a poem by Rumi that I love the most is making a candle out of your darkness. That's something I learned when I was really young. And it's something I've always strived to do is that I, like most of the people I've come into contact with, have this mentality of there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So it's
Mm.
like I need to get to the end of the tunnel, and it's like why can't I just make a light here? Why can't I turn this dark space into light? Like it, and I told all my friends, I'm like, we don't fear the darkness. No one actually fears the darkness. What we fear is what we think is in the darkness. And that is how you make a candle out of your darkness. If I no longer fear what I think is here and I'm just present what really is, I can make a candle and illuminate my path as I'm walking through this thing. And I might not even really be in a tunnel because it's a tunnel because it's dark. But generally if you're in an area that's lit up, most people won't call it a tunnel. Some people won't call it a tunnel. So there's so many just passages and ways of visualizing the world in another way. And that's why I love poetry.
Yeah. The darkness thing is really fascinating because it's completely true. Nobody's actually afraid of the dark. You're not like, no, the darkness is going to hurt me. It's lurking in there and the unknown. The unknown is terrifying
It is.
to humans. You know what I mean? I feel like this
Yeah.
is the sort of such a deep part of the work
Mhm.
that we're doing is how like our entire nervous system and our ego is designed to preserve
Mhm.
um, ourselves from the unknown, right? Like here's how I identify as my personality. I know this, I like this, I don't like that. And then it literally goes into automatic of like protecting you from going into
Mhm.
things you don't quote unquote like, keeping you towards that your likes, so that's how the personality is preserved. But then intrinsically in the hardware of our how our nervous system works, the way that we have our sensations are generated are like, okay, I created this coping mechanism,
Mhm.
which at like, at very young ages, maybe we had an experience that our nervous system determined as like actually a threat on our survival. It's sort of the fight or flight idea. We figured out a coping mechanism. Maybe we stood up for ourselves and we were more of a fighter, or maybe we ran away and we hid. But whatever it is, it gets encoded into our system as like, this is how you survive this scenario. And then you
Yeah.
literally just put it on repeat for the rest of your life,
Mhm.
unless you are engaged consciously and like, oh, I went into that reaction again.
Mhm.
Even our nervous system is wired to not be consciously aware of the way that we handle what are perceived as traumatic situations. Just for those on here who haven't studied anatomy, you have your spinal cord, and then you have three layers to your brain, what are called your reptilian, your limbic, and your cerebral cortex. And you only when a signal goes all the way through your nervous system, all the way through the first two parts of the brain, and then it hits the cerebral cortex, do you have any conscious awareness of it. And most of those survival programs are in the first two layers of the brain and just react, so that because obviously I like to use the example of like if you touch a hot fire, you don't go, the signal doesn't go all the way up, and then you're like, oh, my hand is hot. Now maybe I should remove my hand from the fire because your hand would be like melted at that
Mm,
point. So it's just like, whoa.
mm,
Before you have a conscious awareness of it, I'd love to hear you speak onto your, your process. But
mm,
one thing that people run into is how do I change these things that are so deeply inside of me that I
mm,
may not even have conscious awareness of, or maybe I became aware consciously that I had a pattern, but
mm,
then I reenacted the pattern, and only 10 minutes later, as I looked back on the scenario, did I go, oh, I did that again, didn't I?
mm.
Any wisdom that you'd like to share on that
Yeah.
process, or that what I just explained in the way that you understand it?
So what I learned for me was, and also from others that I've been around, is that aspect of that fear. It like all stems from like one place, which is control.
Mm,
Because I wanted to control every scenario, it's like I have to know what's in the unknown. And it wasn't until sorry, something just went my nose. It wasn't until I learned that, like, the true meaning of surrender. Like, to surrender means to let go. When I let go of control, and on like the natural spiritual side, it was like trusting the process of like whatever's in the unknown, I will get to see it when I'm ready to see it, or I can just step into it. When I let go of that control, it made life so much easier. But when I started to control everything, that's what made it hard for me to also reprogram my subconscious mind. So when I explain to people like the conscious and subconscious mind, like a computer, the conscious mind just processes everything that's in front of you, like this camera right now. My subconscious mind just sees it all. Or conscious mind, sorry. Subconscious mind sees it all. Subconscious mind remembers how to react. So it's like if I go and I see, say, uh, a snail. If I see the snail and I'm like, my subconscious mind goes, every time you see a snail, go, or every time you smell, a skunk, go, What happens? I see the skunk. Even if I don't smell, my eyes are like, that's a skunk. My subconscious goes, I see the snail, If you want to change it, you have to actually reprogram the way your conscious mind perceives things. So, in terms of darkness, I will tell people you get to a point of understanding your darkness so much that I'm no longer afraid of it, that I understand that when I go into my bedroom at nighttime, I'm not afraid. It's dark in the bedroom because I know where the light switch is at. So it's like, because I know where the light switch is, it's like you do that in your own life. Go into the space that scares you, make a candle, and then eventually the candle becomes a light bulb, and then eventually the light bulb now has a switch to where you can just clap on, clap off. And then I'm no longer afraid of that space because I've been in there. So for me, I've dealt with those fears that I have by anytime I'm triggered or anytime I'm afraid, I actually write it down either in my phone or on a piece of paper. And when I have time, I'll be like, okay, this is something I'm afraid of. Why am I actually afraid of it? And it's like, because it's scary. Why is it scary? Oh, because of this. And I allow myself to actually coach myself and go deeper and deeper. And I look at myself from like an objective mindset. When I started looking at myself from outside of myself, it made it easier to process everything. And I'm like, okay, that's why I'm afraid of that. Now that I understand it, it makes it easier to let go of. And I know it's not always easy for a lot of the people that I've met to look at the world objectively like that, because it's almost like judging yourself. But for me, it's like when it comes to my ego, I don't see my ego as like this thing that's like trying to hurt me or destroy me. I just see my ego as like the true me that
mm,
knows all the lessons already. So I always tell people, I'm like, I have tea with my ego. I will literally sit down and be like, okay, ego, this came up earlier today. Because I feel like my ego can only use the things against me that I have not worked through yet. My
mm,
ego doesn't just make up some random shit. Whatever my ego's doing, it's something that's a part of me that I haven't looked at. So I just go look at that thing and figure out what's going on and shed light onto it. And then I just move from there. And even if I've shed light onto it, kind of how you were saying earlier, just because I've shed light on something and I understand it and I understand it and I embody it, doesn't mean it's not going to come up anymore. Like if I get triggered by people that bring up the patriarchy, I can get to a level where now these people don't trigger me anymore and I'm here. But now that I'm here, I'm meeting people that are up here. So I can still get triggered by it. It just becomes easier to deal with. So it's like trigger, deal with it. Trigger, deal with it. And each time you go higher, it just becomes faster. So it's like when you're up here and you get triggered about the patriarchy, it drops a lot faster because you've been practicing it so much that it's like, oh, I get it. There's no reason to get mad about this. That's how you feel. How you feel is how you feel. And that's how a lot of things are. I don't focus on anything that I can't control.
So let's talk specifically because this conversation has also come up.
Mhm.
I'm actually co-hosting a retreat with a friend of mine in the end of May, and she's really into healing trauma. And the retreat that we created is around resetting our nervous system from pandemic stress, you know, uh, and we were talking about similar to this. Her whole thing is some people have had a lot of trauma. Some people's without defining, somebody may have had what someone else considers a less trauma, but it's so embedded in their nervous system and they haven't
Mhm.
figured out how to transmute it. And some people have had massive trauma and yet they seem to be able to
Mhm.
transmute it and function very efficiently in the world. They don't like suddenly get run off. For some people, trauma shows up like, oh, can't even handle. I get overwhelmed and I start bursting into tears, or I shut down and then I can't move forward in my life. Just to give an idea of an extreme level of what that might look like in someone's nervous system. And in the conversation that we were having is looking at, and what my question is like, what is that process? Can you really speak specifically? Because I think of that as what I call expanding your bandwidth, or it's
Mhm.
almost like having an active exercise regimen. And this is what the practices in yoga and a lot of the mystical breathing practices that you've been trained in, they're meant to like bring more energy into the nervous system and to then build the strength of the nervous
Mhm.
system so that more sensation can move through it without it going into the default
Mhm.
trigger or default reaction or being overwhelmed and shutting
Mhm.
down. That's how I might explain it, but I'd love to hear how you would explain that so that people can really, I think it's what at this time, the more that we give people the skills to logically understand, okay, what's happening
True.
in my body, what's happening in my mind, what's
Mhm.
happening in my emotional state and my energetic or spiritual state, the more that we understand that, the more we understand self. And then it's about gaining mastery over those aspects of the human experience to be aligned or integrated to be a vessel so that that energy can move through us
Mhm.
and as much as we're able to work with before we kind of pop or
Mhm.
like shut down or get overwhelmed. So please, I'd love to hear you
Yeah.
speak to that.
So two of the things I always remind myself of, and anyone that I work with in that aspect, is first and foremost, it's the intention of building a somatic body that can handle that. So it's like if my intention is to build this somatic body so that I can start to work through things, then I'm like, got it. What I feel like is a lot of people are like, I want to do the work, I'm ready for this. The second part is understanding that shit's gonna come up. Like you have to, for me, you literally have to tell yourself, as I'm doing this inner child healing, shadow work, trauma work, I need to understand that shit is going to come up for me. And as soon as I accept that things are going to come up, I've allowed myself to be less surprised when things come up. And as I start to do it, I just go to my edge and I just go to the edge little by little. I don't feel like there's something where it's like you have to like jump over the edge every single time. But what I won't do is turn around and run away from my edge. I
Mm.
will meet my edge and be like, oh my God, this is what's coming up for me. Oh, I want to cry and all these memories are coming back. I can take a break in that moment and be like, let me recenter myself. Let me remind myself right now, okay, I'm safe. This is the past. It's already happened. I can't change it. Okay, why does this trigger me? And it's like, oh, this traumatic trigger is triggering me because whatever it may be. So if the example is, for anyone, trigger warning, a childhood abuse, something that happened to you sexually, it's like, okay, this is getting to me because someone violated me. So it's going deeper. Because I was violated, I feel like I can't trust men or women or however someone identifies themselves. Okay, the reason I don't trust them is because I did trust someone and they broke that trust. Broken trust to me means that I don't matter. Because I don't matter, I feel less than. Because I feel less than, I feel like maybe I don't belong on this earth. So it's getting people to that root core thing of like, all right, because this happened to you, how does it really make you feel? And I
Mm.
had this with a client where we just kept going deeper and deeper. And all I had to do was ask questions. I never had to tell her anything. I just said, go deeper. And she was like, yeah. She's like, I feel like I should be dead because this person did this to me, I feel like I'm worthless. And I was like, powerful. Now let's move from there. What does it mean to be worthy in your opinion? Oh, to be worthy means this. I said, cool. Are you doing that for yourself? No. Why? Because it's hard. And it's like, okay, why else? Go deeper. Why is it hard for you to love yourself? And it's like, because no one else ever loved me. Okay. What does love mean to you? Oh, love to you means this. I said, cool. So you know what love means? Would you be willing to, of those five, focus on this one today? Yeah, okay. So do the one and focus on the other four tomorrow, next week, next month, whatever you need to do. But just go in on that one. So to me, it is about baby steps. But if you haven't gotten to the root of whatever it is, it's really hard to reprogram all that stuff. Because it's literally like taking a cog out of the machine from the top. It's like taking the lever off the machine. The machine's still going to work. And I can still jab a pin in there and still make the lever work. But if I know what's actually preventing the machine from even starting, what even actually built that machine, what's at the very bottom of the abyss inside of the treasure chest that's inside of a bottle, if I don't know what that is, then everything I'm doing up here is almost for nothing in some cases. Because whatever is deep down inside, like the worthiness and feeling like you're suicidal, is different than assuming that the reason why you can't do it is because your boyfriend touched you or something like that. And that reminds you of your uncle. It's going deeper and deeper.
Yeah. I had and I think what I'd like to add is that again, like there's a core and then you find it, you do work with it, and then it may reappear in a
Mm-hmm.
different way later on in your life. And I think that I've spoken to different people who've been on this path for a long time, such as us, who are like, oh, really thought I nipped that one.
Yeah.
You know,
Fuck.
like
Fuck.
here it's coming up from a deeper place somewhere. You know, for me, I had this crazy experience once on I was having sound work done by this amazing sound healer. I was laying face down on a massage table. He was actually playing piano, and there's all these sounds around me. And when I think of the subconscious, I think this comes a little bit from my Kundalini yoga training, where you're saying these mantras and they explain the subconscious is sort of existing as the whole universe, like this very subtle realm that's picking up from all of this subtle information that you've taken in. If we think of the conscious mind maybe registering like this is a totally made up number, but like 8 or 10% of what's actually going on, right? Like you use the example of the phone. Like, yes, I'm looking at my phone, but I might not, unless I really concentrate, notice there's a tiny little crack there, or notice where I am actually noticing where my battery's at because we're in and discover these types of things. My brain just kind of scans and goes phone, tripod, okay, and your focus is on this conversation now. So I'm mostly looking at your face and listening to you, even though there's all this information coming in. So you're beautiful.
Thank you.
And I was laying on the table, and it was like from the depths of some deep portal, this voice came up and was like, "You're bad." And I kind of like, it was so loud in my psyche that I was like, wow, I didn't realize you were in there, you know? And then, I mean, when we think about as kids, how often we're told, don't be bad, and you're a good, oh, you're a good boy, you're a good girl, or you're bad, you know? I'm sure someone just said that to me because I was acting up as a kid and being chaotic and running around, and it like from this voice just from the depths and came up, and I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize on some level that huge vibration has been affecting me completely unconsciously in how I choose to show up, because I'm you know, just talking to my own particular programming based on that and some of the experiences I had growing up. I'm almost afraid, and I've had to work very consciously to like put myself out there, even though I like to lead people and I love to share my information. There's a part of me that's always slightly cautious. It's less and less so as I do the work of, uh-oh, you're bad. Make sure you're not saying anything that you're not supposed to be saying. Make sure you're like keeping in line and acting like a good girl. It's there. As much as I've consciously been working on it, I have get to go through layers and layers of it. So it's just there like this level. It's just there like this level. It's there now. I keep working on it. And I think that I read once in, I believe it was a Tibetan text, that as we go through the levels of enlightenment, the most difficult are actually those last few levels because you're searching through your system for a grain of sand. When it's a huge boulder, like, well, here's my issue because it's this huge,
Yeah.
huge boulder, it's very easy. There's a boulder and you start chipping away at it. But as you've done that and the boulder starts to crumble bit by bit, you start to go refine, and you got to find at some point in that process that last grain of sand that's sort of like use the term cog, but I like to think of like the concept of the net of Indra, which is a Vedic concept, or sort of like the interwoven networks of how neural pathways work and how energetically we cord into each other. And there's that last little kink in the hose that we've got to be like, where's there, poof, before you like access a whole nother level of existence and what's possible in infinite creation.
I never go looking for it. There's one lesson that I learned from me is that when I used to search for that next level thing, it would take longer to find. I just never go looking for it. My friend's like, well, how? And I spoke with other monks and just other mystics, and I was like, why do I need to go look for it? They're like, what do you mean? I was like, I could be looking for something that actually doesn't even exist. I may have created that kink in my mind to think I'm not there yet. And this is something that I learned from my master when
Yeah.
it came time to me to leave. My master said, you could stay here, or you could go off and experience life, which is what not a lot of people do from that area. And I wanted to go experience life. And I had those moments where I was like, what more could my master teach me? Like, there's got to be more. And it was like, I'm looking for something that might not even exist. And when that lesson does come up, I get to learn it when it happens. I just get to be present with it. So I actually never, I don't really ever, I can't say never. I never really go looking for like a specific kink. It's like, what's the next level? I just assume that I'm at the highest level I can be right now. And I don't even say like I'm at the highest level. I'm in the present moment. When I understood the concept of like unconditional time, even like you were saying, like, our children could be like the generation that actually came before us. I'm just like, today is today. Whatever I learned today is going to be fun. I'm super excited. And I know that I just know there's always going to be lessons. I believe that I'm always looking at this big boulder that I get to chip away at. Like, the boulder's not getting bigger, it's not getting smaller. I'm literally just learning lessons every single day. And as long as I allow myself to continuously be a student, and I never ever just want to be the master that knows it all, my life is so much more fun for me. I love my life. Just, all right, let's experience some new shit today, Gadara. And it's like, one, I'm alive. So when I wake up in the morning, I literally lay in my bed and the alarm wakes me up and I'm just like, I'm alive. That means God, source, universe, creator loves me being a mischievous being. So I'm gonna fucking have fun. Because if it didn't, I'd be dead. And it's like, I'm breathing, my heart's beating still. I was like, all right, time to go cause some mayhem. And I love shenanigans. Like, I love joking around and having fun. And I just believe that's the way life should be. So as long as I live, every time I wake up, I'm literally just gonna have the first thought be, I'm gonna do some good shit, I'm gonna do some bad shit, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want, because this is my life to experience and learn from.
Yeah. I actually did a live yesterday on the topic of death, and I shouted you out in there um, because you had shared in a conversation, I think when we were on Clubhouse, about recognizing the gift of life and that your practice of waking up in the morning, and how many people actually wake up in the morning and go, I'm alive. Like, dope. Let me do this. So I was talking about gratitude list. Everything else on your gratitude list, I know a lot of people are into that, but everything else is not possible without being alive. So if you don't like wake up, or at least when you're starting your gratitude list, start it with like, I'm alive. There's a big overlook. I think a lot of the issues that we have is because we were so disconnected from life and like what it actually is. I want to just stop for a moment because we've been on here for an hour. I want to like honor your time.
Yeah.
We can totally continue. I'm just gonna have to plug my phone in if we are, but I just wanted to pause and say, do you want to continue on, or do you have stuff to get on with your day?
I say we pause for now, we stop for now, and we can always jump on here again. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
hungry.
do another one.
Yeah.
All right, I love that.
Awesome.
I love talking to you. It's
Same.
so much fun for me. I'd be like have a weekly live with you if you want.
Yeah.
We'll see
I'm all weekly. Weekly.
Yes.
Talk about whatever weekly.
I love you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for showing up today. I'm so happy that we're continuing to explore this epic life with you, and that we're both alive and co-creating. And I'm sending you so many blessings for today. So I just, in the note of how you have your morning practice, let's just like take a moment and I'll take a deep, or I'll let you lead this. Will you lead us through the expression of celebrating life in whatever way? Just give everyone a
Yeah,
little practice to
honestly.
tap into that gift. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And I'll remind everyone just of the expansiveness. So it's like if you I invite anyone that wants to participate, just close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, you're going to breathe on your own. So it's just deep breaths in and deep breaths out, whatever's natural for you. And as you breathe and you experience being present in all moments, whether they be past, present, or future, just remember that, like, the fact that you're able to be present right now is the fact that you're alive. And if you're alive, that means that you're worthy. And if you don't know who you're worthy to whatever put you here. So it's like you've been worthy since the moment of conscious creation. Since the moment you literally had consciousness insert itself into this human body and you started breathing and your heart started beating, probably your heart beat it first. But you've been worthy since that moment. Like you're a human being. There are a lot of souls out there that don't get this experience, or this experience has ended for them. There's some people that didn't wake up this morning. There's some people that won't wake up tomorrow. And here you are, another day, whether your day feels like 24 hours, 100 hours, 5 hours, you have more time to experience things before you transition to wherever you go. And it's like with every breath that you take, know that you're breathing in life, so you're breathing out life. And the fact that you're breathing in air that existed somewhere else in the world yesterday. So I could be breathing in air right now that existed from a piece of kelp in the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean. I don't know where the air comes from, but I'm grateful that it's here for me, that I'm sharing air with all these other beings as we're existing. And as you take another deep breath in, hold it, and just feel your expansiveness so that when you exhale, shift that energy out as far as you can and exhale. And just keep breathing and realizing how far you can extend your energy. You can extend your energy to this room, to the building, across your city, the state, the country, even the world. We are expansive beings when we commit to doing it, when we allow ourselves to, because we deserve it. It is our birthright. Joy, love, expansion, still breathing, pulling it back in, pushing it back out. Again, just another deep breath in, holding it, and reprogramming your nervous system to just knowing that you are worthy in every single moment that you are being, even when you are not being, even when you are not creating, you are still being. And exhale. So start to open your eyes when you're ready and wiggle your toes and move your fingers and just feel how expansive you are. Feel how powerful you are. Feel how blessed you are to be able to experience this for another day.
Thank you. Lots of blessings. Have a
I
blessed day.
love you.
I love you too.
Time to go start swiping on Tinder. Woo!
Sure.
You're
You got a
welcome.
thank you on there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for all of you guys who are
Blessings.
here joining us live and for everyone who's watching today. We'll be doing more, so we'll keep an eye and we'll let you know.
Awesome.
Bye, love.
Mwah.
Have a
I
beautiful
love
day.
it.
Love
You
you
too.
too. Bye.
Bye bye.